Well, that happened. Um, yeah, we're 24 hours removed from the Super Bowl, and it still doesn't feel real. I actually woke up at 4 in the morning because I could hardly sleep, and I'm just thinking to myself, did that game just happen? And it took me a little bit to process the fact that, wow, the Chiefs didn't repeat. They actually got destroyed. And I don't feel happy. I don't feel angry. I don't feel sad. I just feel stunned.
Yeah.
But welcome back to another episode of OC and TJ. It's the season finale of OC and TJ. And coming back from AWOL is my friend Tyler here.
What's up, guys?
And we're definitely going to recap the Super Bowl, and it's going to be a lot different. It's going to be what it was last year, where we just go through everything that happened on Sunday, not just with what happened in the first, second, third, and fourth quarters, but what we thought of the coin toss, what we thought of the halftime show, the national anthem performance, and overall just, how the game and how the night just went overall for everybody across the country and across the world, because Super Bowl is not just for America. That is a damn fact. All right, so here we go. Super Bowl 59. I think it was Super Bowl 59 in the Caesars Superdome in New Orleans, Louisiana. It's the first time that the Super Bowl was hosted in New Orleans since 2012, or technically speaking, February of 2013, when the lights went out in the Superdome. Beyonce performed the halftime show. The Ravens and the 49ers played in one of the greatest Super Bowls ever. Baltimore was up 28-6, and then when the lights went out, the 49ers stormed to a near furious comeback before a turnover on downs gave Baltimore an edging victory, 34-31. It was also the Harbaugh Bowl, so John versus Jim. The Baltimore Ravens won. Ray Lewis, Terrell Suggs, and Ed Reed won their first and only Super Bowls, and Joe Flacco capped off a fantastic postseason where he threw 11 touchdowns to 0 interceptions in 4 games. And Ray Lewis walked into the sunset as a champion, a 2-time champion, for that matter of fact. So this one was a rematch between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. It was the second time these two teams played each other in 3 years. And a fun fact, before this game, the three previous quarterback rematches, the quarterback that won the first time won the second. I think Eli won twice. I forgot the other 2, but you get the drift. So this was the 4th time that this happened. Kansas City won the coin toss. They elected to defer, and the Philadelphia Eagles got the ball to start. But first, John Batiste performed the national anthem. It was definitely one of the best national anthems that I've ever seen. I think, listen, Whitney Houston is definitely number 1, and then I think Chris Stapleton's got to be number 2. But what did you think of John Batiste?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was all right. We've had some shaky ones in the past, I think. There's been a lot of people getting roasted after they sing it, so I'm sure they wanted to pick somebody good for it. But
oh yeah,
I enjoyed it. I bet on the over for the total time of the national anthem, and it went over, and I actually won, so that was cool. So
yeah.
That
was like a weird category, how long the national anthem would be. And it was like, what, 2 minutes?
Yeah, just a little bit over, yeah.
That's what happened with like every Super Bowl prop sheet. It was like, okay, how long's the national anthem going to be? Which coach is he going to point to first? Which quarterback? Is Chris Jones going to cry again like he did last year? I mean, it's just all these different things. And for the record, yes, Chris Jones did cry, but to me, it's much ado about nothing, because he does this all the time. It's how he gets himself ready for a game. I just don't know why every time the Super Bowl happens, they just point to him in that exact moment, because it's like, I've seen him do this more than once. And even when you see like the mic'd up videos where they just, show him on the side, like you can see like tears coming down his face, or dried out tears. So this is nothing new to me. So anyways, Kansas City won the coin toss. They elected to defer. I thought that it was going to be I thought it was a good decision, because at the time, I thought it was going to be a low-scoring game. I thought both defenses were going to play great. And, usually when you get the ball to start the second half, especially in the Super Bowl, it really dictates, the momentum of the game. So I figured, you know what? You put the ball in Patrick Mahomes' hands in that moment, what's the worst that can happen, right? So Philadelphia got the ball to start, and the first play which is another thing that was in a Super Bowl prop sheet, was what was the play? Was it going to be a run? Was it going to be a pass? I thought it was going to be a pass just because I knew Kansas City was going to do everything they could to shut down Saquon Barkley. But no, Philadelphia went with their best player. They handed it off, but it was Devontae Smith that got the first down, or the first down of the entire ball game. But a huge tackle for loss from Nick Bolton set up 4th and 2 at midfield. And that was when the first quote-unquote controversial play happened. Philadelphia's offense decided to go for it, and Hurts took a deep shot down the right sideline to A.J. Brown, and he made a huge catch and got all the way into the red zone. But there was a penalty on the play. Offensive pass interference on A.J. Brown. And if you looked at the replay, you could see why. Because A.J. Brown's hand was grasping Trent McDuffie's face mask, and there was a little bit of a twist, and the ref saw it, and it forced Philadelphia to punt. And I'm thinking, oh, God, Kansas City is going to do what they did a couple of weeks ago, which was just march right down the field and score a touchdown. Am I right about that? The last thing that you want to do is stall on your opening drive and give Patrick Mahomes a chance to score the first points of the game. So what did you think of the penalty? Was it the right call, or did you think they should have just let that one go?
I mean, I can see why they called it. You know, his hand was all up in his face mask, and, you know, I definitely see where the call was made. But for me, it's the first drive of the Super Bowl. Both teams are playing scrappy. You can see Duffy was kind of grabbing on him like a little bit, but nothing too crazy. But there's just some minor stuff from both players. They're being physical. It's the biggest game of both their lives, you know, at that moment. So, you know, to me as a ref, you know, there's going to be more of those moments in the rest of the game. So I guess they were just trying to decide whether or not they wanted to call most of them for the rest of the game or just kind of let them go. So I don't know. If I was a ref, I probably would have let it go just because it's the Super Bowl, and, you know, those big plays can electrify teams and fire up other teams. So I don't know. I thought it should have stood and been a catch, but that's just me.
And there was a face mask called that wasn't flagged later on in the game, but we'll get into that in just a moment. So Philadelphia punted the ball back, and Kansas City got the ball pinned in their own territory because it was a booming punt. And Juju Smith-Schuster got free on the RPO, picked up a big first down. I'm thinking, okay, here we go. It's going to be another one of those days for Patrick Mahomes. But just three plays later, their drive stalls out for a punt. And I'm thinking, okay, that is definitely the stand that Philadelphia's defense needed to make. And, you know, going into this game, they were the best defense in football. You needed to let the world know that they're not just going to be another victim to Patrick Mahomes, that they're going to give him one of the worst performances of his career. And when Philadelphia got the ball back, Dallas Goedert got wide open over the middle for 20 yards. An unnecessary roughness penalty from Trent McDuffie brought the ball all the way to the 27-yard line. And just a couple plays later, it looked like Jalen Hurts was going to cap off the drive with a huge wide open touchdown pass to not A.J. Brown, not Devontae Smith, but Jahan Dotson. So Washington Commanders fans, you might wanted to look away at that point. But his knee was down at the 1-yard line. Jalen Watson, who got beat on the play, was able to, you know, make the tackle at the last second, or, you know, make a touchdown saving play. But we knew eventually what they were going to run. It was the tush push. And sure enough, Jalen Hurts puts Philadelphia on the board early 7-0. So Kansas City got the ball back, and they go 3-and-out. So Philadelphia has a chance to go up 14-0, and they pick up right where they left off in the next drive. You know, Devontae Smith and Jahan Dotson, they get open for a couple of big plays near midfield. Then Jalen Hurts and Saquon use their legs to get into enemy territory. And 3rd and 10 came a pivotal play, or what I thought was going to be a pivotal play. Steve Spagnuolo, the best coordinator in football right now, dials up the blitz. His standard, typical cover zero blitz that he's always going to gamble on and that he's always going to call because that's just who he is. And it's worked against a lot of quarterbacks, especially this season. And he got Jalen Hurts on 3rd and 10, where he just threw it up for grabs to a tightly covered A.J. Brown. And Brian Cook came up with an arm punt interception. And I'm thinking, you got to be kidding me. Because the last thing that you could do is turn the ball over against that football team, because most of the time they're going to capitalize and get points on the board. And I'm thinking, dear God, Jalen, you really did not learn from 2 Super Bowls ago, because if you remember in the second quarter, he coughed up the ball and it got recovered for a touchdown by Nick Bolton. That tied the score up at 14. They lost the game by 3, and that ended up being the key saving play in the ball game. So, I mean, after that point, it's like, where do you go from here, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was a great defensive play call, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Great defensive play call, and I think they ran that later in the game, and it worked well too. So, I mean, I don't know where that was for more of the game. I feel like, you know, they were trying to shut down Saquon, and I understand that, but I would have liked to see a little bit more blitzes, you know, on those later downs. But yeah, I mean, a great play, and you know, Jalen Hurts, as soon as he threw that, I thought, just like you just said, I thought for sure that was the Chiefs' sign. All right, you know, we had a couple dry drives. We have like 11 total yards of offense up to this point in the game. You know, maybe this will give us a little spark, light a fire under us, and, you know, maybe we drive down 80, 90 yards and score a huge touchdown. Our defense gets fired up, and, you know, it kind of dice rolls and spirals from there. So I thought it was going to be a turning point in the game for sure. But as we know, you know, obviously it wasn't.
Absolutely. And one thing that I really just didn't understand what Kansas City was doing was, why in God's name weren't you running the football? Because I don't know if you remember what happened in their one Super Bowl loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They completely got away from the running game, and their offense became completely one-dimensional because Patrick Mahomes throughout the entire night literally had no protection. He was getting punked from all different angles, and I'll get into more of that in just a second, because when Kansas City got the ball back after that interception, they went 3 and out again. I mean, Granted, they were pinned at their own 2-yard line, but all they did was run 3 straight pass plays. They barely ran the ball, and anytime they did, quote-unquote, take off, it was with Patrick Mahomes. He took off 4 times for 25 yards, and at the end of the game, Kareem Hunt and Isaiah Pacheco only got 3 carries each. Like, 3 carries for 6 yards and 9 yards for 2 of your running backs that pretty much helped your offense, you know, kind of bounce back, or not really bounce back. Bounce back from last year after, you know, the twists and turns that they had to go through into getting their second Super Bowl, or third Super Bowl rather, against the San Francisco 49ers. Patrick Mahomes is in that case. And they go 3 and out again. Cooper DeJean has a solid punt return to their own 43-yard line. And on 3rd and 7, Jalen Hurts redeemed himself with an incredible back shoulder pass to A.J. Brown. Big throw, big clutch throw in the field goal range. But unfortunately, the drive stalled out. Justin Reed made a big stop. They forced a 48-yard field goal that should have been a 43-yarder, but apparently there was a false start on the play instead of an offsides call. And Jake Elliott, who was pretty much up and down throughout the entire regular season, just drilled a kick right down the middle to go up 10-0. And I'm thinking, all right, Patrick Mahomes, show me what you got. And that was when everything went downhill, to your point, because on the first play, Josh Sweat beats this guy right off the edge, comes up with a huge sack. It's 2nd and long. That play, Marcus Hunt gets free and forces Mahomes to step up in the pocket and get taken down for another sack. So back-to-back sacks begin the drive, and here it comes. 3rd down and 17. Patrick Mahomes knew he wasn't going to get any time in the pocket. He knew he had to escape and try to make something happen, and instead he did the absolute worst thing that a quarterback could do on that big stage. He threw a pick right to Cooper DeJean. He completely stared him down the entire way, and he maneuvered his way down the right sideline. Wow, okay. Maneuvered his way down the right sideline, found the blocks, made a jump cut, and tiptoed his way into the end zone for a pick 6. 17-0 Philadelphia. And at that point, everybody in this room right here, because we had a big Super Bowl party, everybody was just jumping up and down for joy, and everybody was just like, holy crap, touchdown! And I'm just like, I'm absolutely stunned, because I'm just like I said, Patrick Mahomes is getting freaking punked. But what were your thoughts on that drive, just throughout the whole process, those whole 3 plays?
Yeah, I mean, just I feel like this is the story of the game. The pressure that Mahomes had on him in the pocket the whole game. I feel like that was just a big issue for them throughout the whole game. But yeah, like you said, the first 2 sacks were big, huge plays for that Eagles defense. And then it seemed on that play where he threw the pick that it's like he didn't even see Cooper DeJean. Like he
I
just was
know.
rolling and
He predetermined it.
yeah, I mean, it looked like he's right in front of you. I don't know how you don't see him. I guess they're wearing green or whatever, and they're blending in with the field. I have no idea, but he literally stared right at him and just threw the ball right out of his chest, right
Yep.
out of his chest. And then a horrible effort by the Chiefs to tackle him. I mean, he must have broken 4 or 5 tackles or juked out 3 or 4 guys to get
Yep.
all the way to the end zone. And he could have gotten tackled at like the 1 or 2 yard line, but I forget who he ran through. Somebody that just didn't give a crap.
I think it was like Trey Smith.
Yeah. I mean, you got to at least put a little effort, and that's 7 free points you just gave up. At least make him work for it. Your
I know.
defense has been playing somewhat okay up
Yeah.
to this point. So
I
you
mean-
tackle him, you could maybe force 3 and save 4 or 5 points, but no effort was given. And that, to me, after that play happened, I was like, wow, yeah, the Chiefs are definitely in trouble. They look like they don't care.
Yeah. I mean, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, that Chiefs defense to that point put up a respectable effort. I mean, yeah, they gave up a big touchdown drive, but for the most part, if you told me that Saquon Barkley was going to be held to 57 rush yards on 25 carries, I would say, all right, Philadelphia's not playing well. Kansas City is doing what it takes to win this football game. I thought, all right, you get a rhythm going offensively. You pull together a couple more stops defensively. You force Philadelphia to go one-dimensional. Yeah, you have you got a 3-peat coming, and you're going to make history. But it was the exact opposite. Next possession, you have a chance to get more points on the board or get some type of points on the board. And instead, Mahomes took another sack. This time from Milton Williams, who had a hell of a game on last night. I mean, I was not expecting him to have that type of performance. And it forces another 3 and out. So think about this for a second. Kansas City's 4 or 5 drives. I think 4 or 5, right?
Yeah.
4 drives. 4-play drive, 3 and out, pick 6, 3 and out. Yeah, 5 drives. Are you freaking kidding me? They didn't even cross midfield. And Philadelphia's defense didn't even have to blitz one time throughout the entire night. How in the world does that even happen when you're Patrick Mahomes and when you're Andy Reid and when you have that type of offense? That might not be the juggernaut that what it was when they had Tyreek Hill, but it's still an efficient unit, and it got you to 3 straight Super Bowls without him and 2 Super Bowl victories. So I don't know what happened there. And on the next Philadelphia drive, because it took a while for Philadelphia's offense to get the ball back, they stalled out. They stumbled. There was a holding call. Deshaun Warden had a huge sack. It forced 2nd and 26. And unfortunately, well, I actually shouldn't say unfortunately, but inexplicably, Nick Bolton gets called for a late hit on an incomplete pass that would have forced Philadelphia to punt the football back. It gave the Eagles a new set of downs, yet Kansas City still forced a punt. They were able to pin Kansas City down at the 6-yard line. So you're telling me that, I'm thinking, all right, what is the Chiefs offense ever going to show up? Because you're not running the football. DeAndre Hopkins had a couple of bad drops. Xavier Worthy only had 1 catch for 1 yard at halftime. Travis Kelce didn't even catch a single pass. Like, who's going to step up? Is it going to be the quarterback? Is it going to be, one of the running backs? Is it going to be any type of wide receiver? Like, somebody's got to show up. Next play, Joe Tooney runs into Patrick Mahomes because he's overwhelmed by the edge rusher coming off the left side. Boom. Interception. Right to Zach Bond. Even if he didn't get hit, that ball's getting picked off because Zach Bond is literally right in the hole, reading his eyes. He's spying Patrick Mahomes the entire way, makes an incredible catch, and he pretty much just proved why he was a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year, because it was just an outstanding turning point play. I shouldn't even say turning point because they were already up 17-0. But the point was, you just gave Philadelphia more and more momentum to just pull away with this one early.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like all of his picks were the same. Just, they weren't like tipped or, an unlucky pick. They were just horrible throws by, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. So every time he threw a pick, I just got more and more surprised. I thought, he throws one, all right, he's going to learn from his mistakes. He doesn't make many mistakes. One pick, that's the rest. That's the only one he'll throw for the rest of the game. So especially when he threw that second one, at least the Chiefs defense made an effort to tackle him. I mean, geez.
Yeah, well, he kind of dove for the pick, so they had no choice.
Yeah, true. But, I mean, at least they did that. But, yeah, I mean, just Mahomes was not on his A game.
Yeah, no, that's definitely putting it lightly. So because of the interception, the Eagles started at the 14-yard line, and 2 plays later, A.J. Brown got wide open for a touchdown. They're up 24-0, and the Kansas City Chiefs ended the half with back-to-back penalties and a horrible drop by DeAndre Hopkins, whose nickname was Nuke, as in he completely dropped a big nuke, no pun intended, on the football field. They go 3 and out, and Philadelphia just kneeled on the ball. And well, they didn't even kneel the ball. They just handed off to Saquon to see what they got because they had 2 timeouts, and they were like, all right, it only got a few yards. Let's just head into the locker room because we don't want to give the Chiefs any momentum heading into the locker room. But even then, call me crazy, I didn't think that this game was over because a double-digit deficit is just what Kansas City loves to deal with because it started up in 2019 when they were down 24-0, the same exact score to the Houston Texans in the divisional round, and they ended up going on a 51-7 scoring run to win the game by 20. So Kansas City is definitely capable of that. And then in the next round of the AFC Championship, down 17-7 against Tennessee, end up winning 35-24. Yep. Super Bowl against the 49ers, down 20-10 in the fourth quarter, win that game 31-20. Why? Because of A, Patrick Mahomes, and because B, the defense tightened up. And even last year, they were down, 10-0 against the 49ers in the Super Bowl? Granted, it's a less big of a deficit, but my point is, that Kansas City has been there before. They've done it before. And I'm just thinking to myself, you can't give them any more chances. You got to come up with the same mindset you did to start the game, and you can't show any mercy.
Yeah, I mean, I still just am in, complete shock. But, I mean, I was just – every time that the Chiefs would have a drive, I'd be like, all right, this is the drive where they're going to start, and then they're going to go down and score a touchdown. All right, this is the drive they're going to go down and score a touchdown. But it felt like it would always start with a negative play. Every drive they had would always start with a negative play. And you're right. They just gave up the run, which I thought was also a little odd. I mean, you're down 7-10-0. You can still run the ball. But then you're down 17-23-0. You got to start throwing it more. But, I mean, 24-0 in the first half. I definitely still thought they had life. I thought it fit the perfect script for what the NFL wanted. The Chiefs come back big in the Super Bowl to three-peat. I thought that it would be a huge headline and all that, and it'd be a perfect story for Mahomes to kind of cap off his legacy that he's been building in Kansas City. But, at halftime, though, for sure, I thought they still had life, and I think the Eagles knew the game wasn't close to being over either.
Exactly. Mahomes was 6 of 14 for 33 yards with 2 interceptions and 3 sacks at halftime. Jalen Hurts, 11 of 15 for 123 yards, 2 total touchdowns, 1 interception, 1 sack. Kareem Hunt, 1 carry. Isaiah Pacheco, 2 carries. Saquon, 12 touches, 31 yards. And granted, he did have a better receiving performance. He finished the game with 40 receiving yards on 6 catches. But like I said earlier, Kansas City did what they were supposed to do, which was take Saquon out of the game plan. But later on, as the game evolved, Jalen Hurts just put the team on his back. But before we discuss how, the halftime show featuring Kendrick Lamar, SZA, and for whatever reason, Samuel L. Jackson. I don't know. Maybe I just don't listen to that much of Kendrick Lamar. Maybe it's just because I'm not that huge of a rap fan. But I'll ask someone that is. What did you think of the halftime show? Give it a grade.
So out of 10, I'd give it like a 7 or 8. I think it was an interesting choice. I think obviously with that whole song with him dissing Drake or whatever.
Oh yeah.
I think that was a big thing. The whole crowd. That's the only song everybody wanted to hear. And there was a big debate whether or not, is he gonna sing it or is he not, because there's some legal reasons or whatever between the two of them. But I I was like, God, I hope he sings it because that's the only song that I really wanted to
I
hear.
mean, it won a Grammy for Song of the Year. I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, and as soon as that song came on, the whole crowd is singing every word of it. And he's going a lot harder than he was in the first couple songs that he was singing or whatever. But it started out really bad, like the first couple songs.
Oh my God.
I would call myself a decent Kendrick Lamar fan. Like I know most of his songs, but I don't know all of them, obviously. But I'd say the first couple songs, I think everyone that I was watching with is like, what is like what's going on? Just skip to the good stuff. And then Samuel Jackson comes in, he's like narrating and like telling him to step it up or whatever. And I'm just like, why just skip all those songs? Just skip to the ones that everybody wants to hear and can sing, because that's what a halftime show is all about.
I think one reason why I thought I saw Samuel L. Jackson dressed up as Uncle Sam is that I don't know which diss track it was, but wasn't there one where Drake just wrote and he, kind of disses Kendrick Lamar, and one of the bars that he says is like, where's your uncle? Or like, what's your uncle talking about? Or like the Grammy. I forgot what diss track it was, but it has something to do with that. And then Kendrick responds with that at the Super Bowl. We're at the big American game. It's like, yeah, look where I am, man. You're never getting invited. I don't know if that was the exact message, but that's what I was thinking. But yeah, the Drake shout out was definitely funny. It was definitely hilarious.
Yeah.
I didn't think SZA did that bad of a job. All the Stars was definitely my favorite song. Like I said, not the biggest rap fan, but I think that was the one song I think they definitely nailed. But yeah, the first two, I legitimately thought that he lip synced them, because I'm like, is he actually rapping them, or is the backing track just doing it? Because I was just so confused.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, as it got later on, I was like, all right, this isn't completely horrible. I was like, I recognize this song and that one, but he wasn't as good. I'll say this. I don't think he was good as this one as he was when he was with Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and Mary J. Blige. Granted, he only did maybe 2 songs if you want to count if you count Mad City in the first track. But yeah, I mean, nobody else in the room liked it. Everybody was just like, what in the world are we watching? Granted, I mean, they're all adults, so they don't really like rap music that much. I don't either, but I'm just thinking to myself, dear Lord, I hope the NFL invites Post Malone for the next one, because I think everybody would love to see it, because it's not just country, it's, pop, and it's also rap. I mean, you get a whole bunch of different artists that everybody would love and pay attention to. And listen, the Super Bowl next year is in San Francisco. I'm not saying the location is going to be a huge part of it or should play a huge role into who should perform and who should not. But yeah, I think Post Malone would definitely be my top choice. What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, you got to go a different route. I don't know if rap is exactly the kind of show that you should put on for the Super Bowl. I know they've done it decently in the past, but
I mean, the one 3 years ago was definitely A+.
Yeah, I mean, you just got to pick the right person. I feel like
since then they've just been trying to, get back to that, and it's just like, I don't know. Usher was okay. Rihanna was, I don't know, wasn't what I really wanted or expected. I love Rihanna, but
yeah, it wasn't what we all thought it was going to be. But
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I like the Post Malone take. I think Post Malone would be a great Super Bowl halftime show, mix of all different types of genres of music. So
I know.
There.
I just remember when we were growing up, it was like Katy Perry, Coldplay, Bruno Mars, Beyonce, Madonna. She did that when the Patriots lost to the Giants the second time.
Yep.
Black Eyed Peas. It was interesting. I mean, a lot of people said it sucked, but I mean, I actually liked it because I love the songs. I love Slash. I mean, he's one of my favorite guitarists of all time. But anyways, let's get back to the game, because I think that's what a lot of people want to pay attention to. So the third quarter started. Kansas City got the ball, and for the first time in who knows how long, they actually picked up a first down, and they actually started running the ball on the first 2 plays. And I'm thinking, okay, this is what they should have been doing the whole time. And I'm thinking, all right, they're probably going to go walk down the field and score again. And then back-to-back sacks again killed the drive. One from Jordan Davis and another from Josh Sweat.
Yep.
Punt the ball, and I'm thinking, what is Andy Reid? Okay, I don't know what happened there. The point is, though, it's like, why are you doing the same stuff you did in the first half when the first two plays absolutely worked for you? Against that defense, you were actually getting close to midfield. And they put the ball again, and Jalen Hurts got the ball back. And a huge run on third down got him all the way to the 41. Saquon managed to get into Chiefs territory, and then Jalen Hurts took off again off the A gap to get into field goal range. Slid all the way down to the 4-yard line, gets out of bounds down the sideline, but the drive stalled again for a chip shot field goal. And another false start, which was an underrated part. I mean, that was one of the things that the Eagles could not do right on is, it's like properly execute a field goal, because I don't know if it was the long snapper or one of the guards, but they did this 3 times where they just jumped early and it pushed Jake Elliott back an extra 5 yards, but it didn't face him. He drilled a 29-yarder. They go up 27-0. And Kansas City gets the ball back. They moved decently down the field. They managed to get to the 47-yard line, but they faced 4th and 5. And you had Justin Watson actually streak open down the middle of the field, and you had a little bit of a win under the right side for DeAndre Hopkins, and Mahomes went with the latter option. And Avonte Maddox made probably the most underrated play of the entire night. He broke up the pass. He actually got a hand on it, and if he actually managed to jump in front of the pass and get both hands on the football, that's going to the house again. And that would have been his 3rd pick, and it definitely would have cemented his worst loss ever.
Yeah.
But turnover on downs happens, and do you think it's game over at that point?
I mean, it's tough to say. What, 27-0?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've seen them do it. Well, at that point, there was, what, was it about 3 minutes left in the third?
We were still in the third quarter.
Yeah, right. Still like late in the third quarter. So, I mean, there's plenty of time. You gotta, the offense has to get something going. You just have to put points on the board to give yourself some confidence.
Yeah.
So it sucks. You turn it over, but I mean, at that point, you're in scramble mode. Your defense has to lock in. You cannot give up any more points, or you're done. You're gonna lose. If you give up more than 36-0 points, I don't like the Chiefs' chances. You keep in the low 30s. You get a stop. You get a field goal at least, a touchdown, and you're down 2 scores or 3 scores or whatever. I like them to go on a 21-0 run. They could definitely easily do that. So I didn't think it was done yet, but I was like, if the Eagles do something here, it's definitely going to be done and out of hand.
And it's a great segue, because the next play, Jalen Hurts, 5-step drop, took a deep shot down the middle of the field, and Devontae Smith beat Jalen Watson down the post for a touchdown. It was a long touchdown, and now Philadelphia takes a 34-0 lead. And that moment, I was like, all right, this game's over, because granted, you still had the fourth quarter, but a 34-0 lead is definitely almost insurmountable. I know the Patriots overcame a 28-3 deficit against the Atlanta Falcons, and the Buffalo Bills overcame a 35-3 deficit against the Houston Oilers at the time in the early 90s. But I think Philadelphia knew that this game was in their hands, and that only a fool could just let them blow it in amazingly hilarious fashion. And then that was when the stat padding began, because on the first play of the next drive for Patrick Mahomes, he took a shot down the field for Xavier Worthy, and they finally connect on a big play. And, the two managed to find each other again for their first touchdown. They don't connect on the 2-point conversion. Mahomes just nearly threw an interception on that one. So now they're down 34-6. And I'm like, oh, so now you want to show up. So, that just really, really irked me. And I'll get into more why a little later. But Kansas City, they finally get points on the board. But the fourth quarter began. And, Philadelphia's marching down the field once again. Saquon got a first down. A.J. Brown managed to get into Chiefs territory. Jalen Hurts took off for another big game to get into field goal range. But a pretty useless sack from Drew Tranquill forced another field goal. And Jake Elliott, for the third time, drills it right down the middle to go up 37-6. And on the very next play, the dagger is officially set in. Because as Patrick Mahomes tried to take a deep shot once again down the middle of the field, Milton Williams came up with his second sack of the night, and it wasn't just a sack. He knocked the ball out, and Philadelphia fell on top of it. I honestly thought it was going to be a scoop and score, but they ended up forcing the third turnover of the ball game. And from that point on, it was just a lock because on the next drive, Philadelphia kicked a 50-yard field goal, and it's 40-6. Patrick Mahomes at that point, let me pull up my notes here. He was 12 of 22 for 148 yards, 2 interceptions, and a fumble loss. And the one touchdown that he scored was in literal garbage time, down 34-0.
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do with that?
I know. The defense in the fourth quarter wasn't bad for the Chiefs. Those are 2 stops inside their own territory. They hold them to 6. The defense wasn't really the problem here. I think the Eagles only had about 3 good drives for touchdowns. 3 long, good, decent drives that weren't set up by turnovers. Or
they have one legitimate touchdown drive because that was the second drive of the game.
Right.
And that was probably the only time where Kansas City really got, kicked around for a good part of the game. And then, the second touchdown was because of a turnover. Well, the second touchdown was a pick six. The third touchdown was because of an interception. And the fourth was because of a failed fourth down conversion in their own territory. So, for the most part, they gave up a couple of big shots, but for the most part, it's like, what more could Kansas City's defense do in that game? Great. I'm not saying that they should get a pass, but you would think that, if their offense decided to bother to show up for 45 meaningful minutes, that, this game would have turned out differently, but it didn't.
Yep.
And for the rest of the game, I'm not going to really bring up too much of it. Patrick Mahomes just completely stat padded the rest of the way.
Yep.
Finished the game, 21 of 32 for 257 yards with 3 touchdowns. But 9 of those completions and 109 of those yards and 2 of those touchdowns literally came when the game did not mean a single damn thing.
Last 3 minutes.
Philadelphia put in all their backups on both sides of the ball. They were pretty useless. Nobody's going to care about the fact that Xavier Worthy had 157 yards or that Mahomes had 3 touchdowns because he had as many turnovers. He got sacked 6 times. And at one point, you were down 40-6.
Yep.
34-0 at one point earlier in the ball game. So, I'm going to get into it a little bit of a bigger rant later on, but Philadelphia Eagles, they captured their second Super Bowl title in franchise history. Jalen Hurts was the MVP, and I honestly thought it should have gone to a defensive player, but there were so many guys that balled out that it would have been hard to give it to just one. Cooper DeJean had a pick 6 on his birthday, by the way. Zach Bond had a huge interception, and, he just proved why that Eagles should give him a long-term extension when free agency hits, because he went from a rotational linebacker to a defensive player of the year candidate that just completely balled out and was pretty much one of the best cornerstones on their entire defense. And then you had Josh Sweat and Milton Williams, who each had a pair of sacks and just completely took over in the trenches. Jalen Carter didn't even have that huge of a game, and it still didn't even matter because they took Patrick Mahomes down 6 times. But Jalen Hurts, 17 of 22 for 221 passing yards and 2 touchdown passes. He ran 11 times for 72 yards with a touchdown. That's 293 total yards of offense with 3 touchdowns. And he just capped off pretty much the biggest game of his life with a performance for the ages, completely redeeming himself 2 years ago in a heartbreaking loss to the Kansas City Chiefs, literally getting back at them 2 years later and ending their hopes and dreams for a 3-peat. Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, Kellen Moore, A.J. Brown, James Bradbury, Mekhi Becton, Nick Sirianni, Darius Slay are all Super Bowl champions. If you're a fan of the teams that let him go, this one had to sting. I could understand because last year and 2 years ago, I had to watch Joe Thuney, one of the best offensive linemen the Patriots drafted, win back-to-back Super Bowls for the Chiefs. So I definitely can understand the frustration and the pain. But what did you think of Jalen Hurts just overall? I pretty much gave my synopsis. I thought he was flat out fantastic, but
Yeah, I mean, he stepped up when it mattered most. You know, when he threw that pick in the early stages of the game, I thought, oh gosh, he didn't learn anything from that Super Bowl a couple years ago. Like, oh, it's going to be the same story over again, and
Same
it's all
song,
going to be
same
on
fuck.
him, right? But you know, ever after that play, I literally don't think he made a single mistake. He was using his
No.
legs well. He was throwing the right passes. Like we'd seen, it was a little shaky in their past couple of games. Like they really needed Saquon to win games, but he showed that we didn't need Saquon to win. Like you said, I think he had 25 carries for 50 something yards.
Yeah.
I mean, that just
57.
shows you that he just needed some time, or at any point, Hurts can go off and throw for 200 plus. But yeah, I mean, he used his arm well, but I was more honestly surprised by his legs. He was running well, and not just running for like 5, 6, 7 yards, like multiple 15 to 20 yard runs, you know, and on big downs that they needed the first down on. So he ran it well, he threw it well, he limited his mistakes, and honestly, I think that pick he threw, he probably should have just taken the sack there. You know, that's definitely like a mistake that he could have, you know,
Not
prevented
even
from
take the sack,
happening.
just throw it away.
We'll just
Just
throw it
throw it
away.
out of bounds.
Right. Yeah, he doesn't have to.
Because you got points.
Yeah, we have points. That's a pick that he just didn't have to throw. I think he was trying to make a play, trying to make a big highlight play to energize his team, and I understand that. But you know, at the end of the day, whatever, it was a little pick, didn't really matter. But I think he definitely deserved the MVP for sure.
Yep. I can't disagree with you that because Jalen Hurts did exactly what Steve Spagnuolo wanted. It was like, okay, we're going to take out Saquon. We're going to dare you to beat him. We're going to dare you to beat us by yourself. And that is exactly what he did. And I can't be any happier for him, not just because of that game and because of what happened 2 years ago, but just how his entire football journey, started. I mean, he gets benched in the national championship game for Tua. They end up winning it against Georgia. The next year, he stays at Alabama as Tua's backup, takes over in the SEC championship, comes back from a 14-point deficit to win that game, but doesn't play in the playoffs, transfers to Oklahoma, has an outstanding year, has 52 total touchdowns, but he wasn't Joe Burrow that year. He finished second in the Heisman race, falls all the way to the second round of the draft when Philadelphia has Carson Wentz locked into a 4-year contract, and Jalen Hurts literally stole the starting job for him midway in the 2020 season, takes over, leads him to the playoffs his first season. The next year, all the way to the Super Bowl. Third year, the playoffs again, and then fourth year, Super Bowl again, and this time he wins it. And he finally caps off the crowning achievement. I mean, with all the backlash that he's gotten over the last 2 weeks that, he's not going to win if he doesn't have Saquon Barkley or the defense, carrying him. Well, he got the latter part. The defense was the biggest reason why they won that football game. But offensively, they would not have had the rhythm that they did if it wasn't for Jalen Hurts stepping up in the biggest moment of his life. I mean, we knew that he had, him walking away from the Chiefs confetti on a screensaver on his phone. And then 2 years later, he just lets the Chiefs know, I'm here and I am not going away. And you might have Patrick Mahomes, but guess what? I'm him as well.
Yeah.
Speaking of Patrick Mahomes, this game took a massive, massive dent to his legacy. If this was like a hard fight and it was like a close loss, I don't think that, he would get a lot of the backlash that I'm about to give him. But your 2 Super Bowl losses were utter blowouts. And despite the freaking stat padding in the fourth quarter, this could be seen as arguably the worst loss of your entire career. Maybe worse than his first one against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when they got destroyed 31-9 because he didn't score a touchdown. And the only reason why I would even say this one was worse because in the first one, you could make the excuse that, okay, his offensive line was mangled. He didn't have any time to throw the football, yada, yada, yada. This one, no. There's no excuse for this one.
Nope. 3
turnovers. I mean, the only reason why he had 257 yards was because of literal garbage time, 6 sacks, and a QBR of 11. 11. The floor is yours there. I mean,
that's. Yeah, I mean, you said it best. I think that's the lowest QBR I've ever seen in a game. I don't know about in a game, but in a Super Bowl.
I think John Elway's against the 49ers might have been worse, but
but in a Super Bowl,
it's down there.
Yeah, in a Super Bowl, I think that might be the lowest QBR I've ever seen. But
maybe Jim Kelly against Washington too. I don't know. I'm just
One of those
spitballing.
two. Okay. But yeah, like, I mean, we've been talking about it the whole night. I mean, just the last thing that anybody on this planet predicted he would play, the last way everyone think he would play. I mean, literally the worst game I think you could possibly have as a quarterback in the NFL. I mean, in the Super Bowl, you've made it that far. Like, you know who to throw it to. You know, you could tell also during the game, him and Kelsey were not on the same page at all whatsoever.
No.
Which
He only caught 4 passes for 39 yards.
Right. 4 passes for 39 yards. So I think that's another big reason why their offense wasn't clicking because, I mean, he's their most reliable receiver, obviously. You know, so, I mean, when he's having a bad night and the Eagles defense doesn't have to worry that much about Kelsey, it takes away from everybody else as well. So, I mean, that was another huge factor, them not being on the same page. You know, Mahomes was throwing passes down on his knees. You know, they like that little quick bubble where he turns around and catches it for like 5 or 6 quick yards. They missed that a few times. So, I mean, just Mahomes. And part of that was he was getting pressured a lot. I understand that. And he was getting balls batted and tipped at the line. But, yeah, I mean, just a historically bad game for him. And like you said, definitely puts a dent in his legacy and, you know, the whole debate between him and Tom Brady and all that stuff for sure.
I'm going to dive deep into that one.
Okay.
Yeah, listen, you're 3-2 now in Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Here's the disclaimer. No one is saying that Patrick Mahomes is a bum or that he's overrated. Yeah. When it's all said and done, he is going to go down as one of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history. He's definitely number 3 right now, and it could be a little lower just based off this last night's performance. But, I mean, nothing went right for them. 3 for 11 on third down, just 12 first downs throughout the entire night. Let me just read the halftime stats, actually, because that's what's really jarring, because they were down 24-0 at that point. 1 first down, 0 for 6 on third down, 23 yards of offense. That's 1.2 yard per play. No trips to the red zone, and you committed 4 penalties. I mean, that is just flat out absurd, which leads me to this freaking talking point. And I don't even need the notebook for this. So, over the last 2 weeks, all I kept hearing on sports media, whether it was on First Take or Get Up or First Things First or Speak or whatever that show, that the facility, the one that Emmanuel Acho, all I kept hearing was that, you know what? Does Patrick Mahomes have a chance to usurp Tom Brady as the greatest quarterback ever? And there were a few yeses involved. Stephen A. Smith, Shannon Sharp, Dominique Foxworth, Ryan Clark, Nick Wright, Mac Doc Russo. A lot of love and respect for most of them. But the only reason why I was even happy that the Eagles won is not because Patrick Mahomes got crushed or that the Chiefs couldn't three-peat or because, you know, the Eagles fans get to live it up on Broad Street this week and on the Valentine's Day parade on Friday. It was because that the sports media can finally humble up and shut up about this biased, subjective narrative that Patrick Mahomes is even close to taking down Tom Brady from the throne. I mean, that was a debate or a conversation that should never have even been started in the first place. And I posted on Snapchat, I don't want anybody saying that Patrick Mahomes is the GOAT over Tom Brady ever again. Do you realize that in those 5 Super Bowls, he has thrown 10 touchdown passes and 7 picks, while Tom Brady has thrown 21 and 6? Do you realize that in the 2 Super Bowl losses, Patrick Mahomes has lost, 31-9. That's a 22-point differential. And then in this one, 40-22. 40 points. Lost by 40 points combined in 2 games. And we're calling him the GOAT? Why? Because he could make highlight reel plays and escape out of the pocket and show the pizzazz? Yeah, he might be the greatest talent to ever play the game. Some might say Aaron Rodgers. Others might say John Elway if you want to go old school. But you know what? I think Patrick Mahomes has earned that title. But when it comes to the greatest ever, there are levels to this. And we all know that Patrick Mahomes, as great as he is not going to be number 1. It ended in 2018 when you lost to Tom Brady in the conference championship. It ended 2 years later when you got destroyed by him 31-9 in the Super Bowl. First year was at his own house in Arrowhead Stadium. 2 years later in the Super Bowl. The year after that, you're up 21-3 against Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, and you get outscored, what, 24-3, because in the second half in overtime, Patrick Mahomes only completes 8 passes, doesn't score a touchdown, throws 2 picks, including one that pretty much sealed the deal against Cincinnati, and that ended up losing. That ended up resulting in the Chiefs losing that game to send Cincinnati to the Super Bowl. And in this one, it was pretty much a lock. I mean, would it have been nice to see Patrick Mahomes win 3 in a row? Yeah, because we would have witnessed greatness before our very eyes, and it's not very often before you get to see that happen. But it's just such an insult and a disrespectful shot to the sport and the game itself, because it doesn't really matter how hard the path is or what situation you were in or what type of league you were in when you were able to reach to the top of the mountain and able to peak in your career. It's just, if you're likable and if you're a highlight reel machine and if you're just, the guy that everybody wants to like and everybody wants to take Tom Brady down from the throne, so be it. We don't care. We'll just make biased, objective narratives to get the clicks and to generate ratings and to just, make sure that people watch our shows and to make sure that, everybody else is, reading the headlines. So, like I said, I respect a lot of the sports analysts on television because they know what the hell they're talking about. But when it comes to this, shut up. Sorry, I didn't mean to go too far there. It really just, I'm serious though, it really just pissed me off over the last 2 weeks that, they were even considering that, let alone talk about it. The fact that some were even considering that was just flat out disrespectful and just disgusting to me. So, anyways, Chiefs -1 was a lock. Well, I mean, I don't know what to say there.
Definitely wasn't a lock.
You know what was really surprising though about this Super Bowl? Taylor Swift only got showed once throughout the entire game. I mean, granted, the Chiefs were getting blown out, so maybe it would have been a different story. But I was happy that Fox didn't try to, just shove Taylor's face into the camera and just remind us, yep, she's dating Travis Kelce.
Yeah, no, speaking of like more bets you could have done, I'm pretty sure there was a bet you could take on the amount of screen time that Taylor Swift would have during the whole
and the
broadcast.
under won.
And the under was, so free. Like, I don't even think it reached a minute. I don't think they showed her more than 30 seconds.
They lucked out. They lucked out. I thought it was going to be a close game, but
Me too.
It didn't happen that way. And listen, I love Taylor Swift. I'm not blaming her for all the attention and publicity she's receiving because, listen, at the end of the day, she just wants to watch her boyfriend and just wants to be supportive, wants to be loving. I get it. I'm not trying to take any shots at her. I'm really more mad at the networks and, anybody else that's just, trying to hype this and glorify this even more because it's like, all right, we get it. You don't have to remind us every freaking day or every week. So, Kansas City, all I have to say is just shake it off. You'll be back next year.
And also, off of that topic, what's up with Taylor Swift and Ice Spice being together? When did that relationship develop? I find they're like polar opposite people. Like,
well, they did a song together. Do you not remember that?
Did they? When was that?
Karma.
Oh.
It was one of her more popular tracks. I think they've been friends for a long time.
Have they been? Okay.
So, I mean, listen, I don't have an issue with it.
Yeah.
Hang with whoever you want with, date whoever you want. I don't care. Live your life. That's what we're brought on this planet to do, to just live our life to the fullest. It's just, I just think that if you're going to have cameras like shoving your face down our throats, and if you're just going to get all this attention and that we're just, like I said, if we're just going to like be reminded of this constantly, I mean, you got to be open to some criticism. I mean, the Superdome freaking booed her when the Jumbotron panned to her. I was like, all right, I don't know if it's really validated that much, but I mean, listen, I can understand why people would feel that way because it's like, all right, we get it. Just get to the game.
Yeah.
So, anything else that we missed? I mean, we talked about Jalen Hurts. Oh, yeah, right. Nick Sirianni. So, when the Philadelphia Eagles reached the bye week, they were 2-2. They were coming off a horrific defeat to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and people were saying that Sirianni was going to be the guy on the hottest of seats, that he should be fired after the season, and that they were just going to have another absolutely just a disappointing season. But I don't know what happened over those 2 weeks, but I got to give a lot of praise and credit to Nick Sirianni because, yeah, there were a couple of rough moments along the way. He, did this to the fans when they barely beat the Cleveland Browns. But, since then, they finished the regular season 14-3, second best seed in the NFC, best running back in football, rushed for 2,000 yards.
Yep.
Jalen Hurts didn't have to do too much to win football games. And he did his job well. He didn't make a lot of mistakes. And he just – listen, the numbers weren't eye-popping, but it helped them win football games, and he had the best defense in football. What Sirianni did well was he stayed out of the bad news, and he tried to, what he really did was try to uplift this team and, step up as a leader. And, in the playoffs, it completely paid off because 22-10 victory over the Packers. Then the next, you beat the Los Angeles Rams. The following week against the Washington Commanders in the NFC Championship, you rout them 55-23. I think that was the final score, 51-23. But the point was, and then in the Super Bowl against Patrick Mahomes, same spot, same stage, different stadium. You get your revenge against the Kansas City Chiefs, and you completely outcoach and outclass Andy Reid from start to finish. So Jalen Hurts and the defense deserve the most credit for this victory. Saquon Barkley deserves a lot of recognition for how the season has gone, but I think Nick Sirianni, to Sean McVay's point earlier before the game, he's definitely the most hated coach and the most disrespected one because Nick Sirianni is now a Super Bowl champion, and he definitely did his job. And more importantly, I think, like I said, he got this team on the right track, and as a result, he got to hoist the Lombardi Trophy.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, I was honestly kind of happy for him.
Yeah,
all the stuff that was being talked about him throughout the year. We all knew that he had a good enough team to win games.
Yeah, you just didn't know if he was going to get in the way or not.
Know if he was, yeah, right, exactly. So I think it just took him a little bit of getting used to how that offense was going to run and how they were going to mix and match Saquon and Hurts. Kind of like with Lamar and Derrick Henry, nobody really knew how Derrick Henry would come into Baltimore and if they'd be still as good or whatever. And I think the same thing with Saquon. People knew Saquon was going to be good, but they didn't know how they were going to balance both of them because they're both run-heavy players, So
right.
I think it just took him a little bit getting used to both those players and the new offense he had to build around them. But, he definitely silenced those haters for sure.
Exactly.
Yep.
Kellen Moore, look at how he started. You get scapegoated out of Dallas. It doesn't work out well the following year with the Chargers. The next year, you come into a situation where you got Jalen Hurts and Saquon and A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. And like you said about Sirianni, you're just trying to find out how you're going to mesh. And, you got to give him credit. He's the Super Bowl champion, and he might be staying in the Bayou because he might be the next head coach of the New Orleans Saints. So a lot of love has to go to him. Vic Fangio, we knew he was always one of the best defensive coordinators in football, one of the strongest and brightest defensive minds for decades. If you remember, he was in San Francisco with Jim Harbaugh from 2011 to 2014. He was the defensive coordinator for one of the best units in football with Aldon Smith and Justin Smith and Patrick Willis, Navarro Bowman, Eric Reed, Chris Culliver, and those guys. And, they were always the top 5, top 10 unit that got him to 3 straight conference championship games. Goes to Chicago, revives the Monsters of the Midway in 2018. They have Khalil Mack and Leonard Floyd and not Roquan Smith then, I don't think so. But, you have a loaded defense that ends up being like one of the best in football. And granted, you didn't get that far in the playoffs, but it got him the head coaching job of the Broncos. Didn't work out there well, but sturdy units with Von Miller, Bradley Chubb, those guys. Go to Miami. Pretty okay season, pretty good, but not great. And in Philadelphia, you're back where you belong. Remember when they played against the Chiefs the first time, he was a senior assistant to the Philadelphia Eagles because he had just gotten fired from the Denver Broncos, and they brought him along to kind of assist with the defense. And even though it didn't work with Jonathan Gannon calling the plays, he finally got a chance to run his own scheme, and I think it's safe to say it paid off. So, Giants fans are absolutely salty. I would say, who else? Cowboys fans, they're definitely losing their minds. Washington fans are a little bit are definitely seething because they lost to the team that ended up winning it all.
Yep.
And who else am I thinking of? I mean, Jets fans, they get to see one of their former first-round picks win a ring. Lions fans got to see another one of their former homegrown stars win a championship, Darius Slay. Giants fans, again, with James Bradbury.
Yep.
Am I missing anybody else? I think that's it. Titans fans, we knew the A.J. Brown trade was a colossal mistake, and you saw why. But I actually saw something else on Twitter. The Carson Wentz trade to Indianapolis.
Yeah.
That will be the worst trade that Chris Ballard has ever made as an executive because Philadelphia used those picks to acquire Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Cooper DeJean, and Jalen Carter.
Yeah.
If Chris Ballard doesn't get fired after the season, if the Colts continue to middle and to continue to struggle, then it just shows that Jim Irsay just does not care about winning, that he just cares about complacency and just, stability. That's about it.
Yeah.
But I think we've touched everything. It was an outstanding season. Congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yep.
You're Super Bowl champions. They were able to accomplish their dreams. And you know what? They sure as hell earned the right to hoist that Lombardi trophy because that was a flat-out ass-kicking from start to finish. And I'm going to say it one more time. They schooled, they punked, and they absolutely kicked the ever-living crap out of the best quarterback in football. So a lot of love has to go to them, and they completely destroyed the hopes of a three-peat. So, all right, that just about does it. Thank you all so much for watching, not just for tonight, but for this season. We'll see you all next time. Have a great night, everybody. Peace out. Goodbye.